The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds across the vast expanse of space, their light cascading through the transparent dome of the observation deck. On board the human exploration vessel Eos, Captain Landon Drake stood with his arms crossed, staring out at the endless void. His rugged face bore the marks of countless battles, a scar running from his left brow to cheekbone and eyes that had seen too much but refused to look away. He was a man who lived for adventure, yet tonight, he felt an unfamiliar unease. The mission had been simple enough: chart unexplored sectors of the galaxy and establish contact with any intelligent life forms encountered along the way. But simplicity rarely lasted long in deep space. The ship sensors had picked up something unusual, an energy signature unlike anything they'd ever recorded, emanating from a nearby planet shrouded in swirling violet clouds. It wasn't just technology, it pulsed with life, as if alive itself. Landon turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Aaron Solis, whose youthful enthusiasm often balanced out his own hardened pragmatism. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing toward the holographic display hovering between them. The image showed the planet's surface bathed in hues of indigo and gold, its terrain jagged and alien. "I think we're about to find out what's on the other side of impossible," Aaron replied, her voice tinged with excitement. She adjusted her glasses, though she didn't need them anymore. It was more habit than necessity after years of cybernetic enhancements. Her fingers danced over the console, pulling up atmospheric readings. "Oxygen levels are breathable, gravity is Earth normal. Whatever this is, it's not hostile to us." "Yet," Landon muttered under his breath. He trusted Aaron implicitly, but caution was ingrained in him. Too many missions gone wrong because someone underestimated the unknown. Still, orders were clear: investigate. And so, within hours, a landing party prepared to descend onto the mysterious world below. As the shuttle broke through the thick cloud cover, the view shifted dramatically. Beneath them stretched a landscape both beautiful and surreal, towering crystalline spires jutting into the sky, rivers glowing faintly with bioluminescent algae, and forests where trees seemed to hum softly, their leaves vibrating in harmony with some unseen force. It was a place born of dreams, untouched by humanity, or so they thought. They landed near one of the crystal formations, its facets reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. The team disembarked cautiously, weapons ready but not raised. Landon took point, scanning the area with sharp eyes. Everything seemed quiet, almost eerily so. Then came the sound, a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. It grew louder, closer, until suddenly, there she was. She emerged from behind a cluster of luminescent flora, her presence commanding every ounce of attention. She was tall, taller than most humans, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver under the sun. Her hair flowed around her shoulders like strands of starlight, shifting colors with each movement. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, glowed faintly, a shade of electric blue that pierced straight through Landon's soul. She wore armor that looked forged from the same material as the crystals surrounding them, intricate designs etched into its surface, pulsing faintly with energy. And then she spoke, her voice melodic yet laced with authority. "Touch me once, and I won't spare you, human." Every word hung heavy in the air, dripping with both warning and promise. For a moment, no one moved. The entire crew froze, unsure whether to raise their weapons or bow down. Landon, however, couldn't tear his gaze away. There was something magnetic about her, something primal and dangerous. When she stepped forward, her boots making no sound against the soft earth, Landon found himself instinctively stepping back, not out of fear, but awe. Around her neck hung a pendant shaped like a crescent moon, glowing faintly with the same hue as her eyes. Whatever it wasn't mere decoration. It radiated power, a silent testament to her status. Her gaze swept over the group before settling on Landon, narrowing slightly as if sizing him up. He swallowed hard, realizing belatedly that his mouth was hanging open. Clearing his throat, he managed to croak out, "We mean no harm." Her lips curved into a smirk, equal parts amusement and disdain. "Intentions matter little when actions speak louder," she said, tilting her head ever so slightly. "Tell me, soldier, why have you come here?" Before Landon could answer, Aaron stepped forward, her usual confidence wavering only slightly. "We're explorers," she began, her tone measured. "We seek knowledge, understanding. We meant no disrespect by entering your domain." The woman tilted her head again, considering. Then, without warning, she raised a hand, palm facing outward. A bolt of energy shot forth, striking the ground inches from Aaron's feet. The lieutenant stumbled back, wide-eyed, while the rest of the team instinctively raised their weapons. "Lower your arms," Landon barked, his voice firm despite the chaos. Slowly, reluctantly, his crew obeyed. Turning back to the alien warrior princess, he locked eyes with her. "If you wanted us dead, we'd already be ashes. So why don't you tell us what you really want?" Her smirk widened, revealing teeth that gleamed unnaturally bright. "Clever," she purred. "Perhaps you humans aren't entirely hopeless after all." With a flick of her wrist, the energy dissipated, leaving only scorched earth behind. "Very well. You may call me Nixera. I am guardian of this realm. Speak quickly, human, before I lose patience." Nixera's piercing gaze never wavered as she studied Landon, her expression unreadable yet charged with intensity. Each word she spoke carried weight, as if she were accustomed to being obeyed without question. Yet there was something else beneath her regal demeanor, a flicker of curiosity, perhaps even amusement. Landon felt it keenly, like a challenge he couldn't ignore. "I'm Captain Landon Drake," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "This is my crew. We're part of an expeditionary fleet sent to explore uncharted territories. Your planet, it's extraordinary. We didn't know anyone lived here." Nixera arched an eyebrow, her luminous eyes narrowing slightly. "Ignorance does not excuse intrusion," she countered sharply. "Your kind has a history of claiming what isn't yours. Why should I believe you won't repeat those mistakes?" Her words struck a nerve, and Landon clenched his jaw. Humanity's past was riddled with conquests and exploitation, but they weren't those people anymore, or at least, they tried not to be. "Because we've learned," he replied firmly. "We've paid the price for our arrogance. This isn't about conquest, it's about discovery. About building bridges instead of burning them." For a moment, Nixera simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a rich, melodic sound that echoed through the crystalline spires. "You humans always talk of learning, of changing," she said, shaking her head. "Yet your actions betray your promises time and again. Tell me, Captain, how many worlds have you discovered only to leave them scarred?" The question hung in the air, heavy with accusation. Landon hesitated, knowing full well the truth in her words. But before he could respond, Erin stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. "Not all humans are the same, Nixera. Some of us genuinely wish to make amends, for the harm done in the past and for the future ahead. If you'll let us prove ourselves, maybe we can show you another way." Nixera regarded Erin for a long moment, her glowing eyes flickering with something akin to intrigue. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Prove yourselves, then. But know this, if you fail, I will not hesitate to end you." She turned her attention back to Landon, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made his heart race. "And you, Captain, you seem particularly invested in convincing me. Why is that?" Landon opened his mouth to reply, but no words came out. How could he explain the strange pull he felt toward her? The mix of fear, fascination, and something deeper he dared not name? Instead, he met her stare head-on, refusing to flinch. "Because I believe in second chances, for everyone." Her smirk returned, softer this time, almost playful. "Bold words, human. Let's see if they hold true." With that, she turned on her heel and began walking toward the glowing forest. "Follow me if you dare. My home awaits, and so does your test." Without waiting for a response, Nixera strode confidently into the trees, her shimmering form blending seamlessly with the bioluminescent surroundings. The crew exchanged uncertain glances, but Landon didn't hesitate. Gripping his weapon tightly, he motioned for the others to follow. As they entered the forest, the air grew cooler, filled with the faint hum of the trees and the occasional flash of light from creatures darting between branches. Every step felt heavier now, not just because of the dense foliage but because of the weight of Nyxora's presence. She moved with grace and purpose, her every gesture exuding power. Behind her, Landon struggled to keep up, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? What did she want from them? And why did he feel so drawn to her, despite the danger she clearly posed? As they ventured deeper, the forest transformed. The trees grew taller, their trunks translucent and glowing faintly from within. Strange symbols etched into the bark pulsed with light, seemingly reacting to Nyxora's approach. She paused briefly to touch one, and the symbol flared brightly before dimming again. Whatever connection she had with this place, it was profound and ancient. Finally, they reached a clearing dominated by a massive crystal structure that towered above everything else. Its surface shimmered with iridescent colors, refracting sunlight into dazzling patterns. At its base lay a circular platform engraved with intricate designs, humming softly with energy. Nyxora turned to face them, her expression unreadable once more. "This is the heart of Erinder," she announced, gesturing toward the structure. "It is the source of my people's power, and the key to your survival. Prove yourselves worthy, and perhaps I will consider sparing your lives." With that cryptic statement, she stepped aside, allowing the humans to approach. The platform beneath their feet began to glow, responding to their presence. Landon exchanged a glance with Aaron, silently asking if she understood what was happening. She shook her head, equally baffled. Then the ground trembled, and from the shadows emerged figures, tall, sleek, and unmistakably alien. Warriors clad in armor similar to Nyxora's surrounded them, weapons trained on the intruders. One of them stepped forward, addressing Nyxora in a language that sounded like music, their voices harmonizing in strange, melodic tones. "They say you bring outsiders to sacred ground," the warrior translated, switching to English. "Do you intend to defy tradition?" Nyxora's smile was razor-sharp. "Tradition demands proof of worthiness. Let them face the trial of shadows. If they survive, they earn my trust. If not," she shrugged, her tone casual, "then they die." The warriors nodded solemnly, stepping back as the platform beneath the humans surged with energy. Before anyone could react, tendrils of light shot upward, enveloping the group in a cocoon of brilliance. When the light faded, they found themselves standing in an entirely different landscape, a desolate wasteland bathed in perpetual twilight. "What just happened?" someone whispered, voicing the collective confusion. Landon scanned the horizon, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Looks like we're being tested," he muttered grimly. "Stay close. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Behind him, Nyxora watched silently, her glowing eyes filled with anticipation. For reasons she couldn't quite explain, she found herself rooting for the stubborn human captain, even as she prepared to destroy him if he failed. The wasteland stretched endlessly before them, a barren expanse of cracked earth and jagged rocks under a sky painted in shades of bruised purple and orange. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder that seemed to echo from nowhere and everywhere at once. Landon led the group cautiously, his instincts screaming that danger lurked just beyond sight. Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind carrying whispers too faint to decipher. "Captain," Aaron murmured, her voice barely audible. "Do you hear that?" He did. A low, guttural growl reverberated through the ground, growing louder with each passing second. From the darkness ahead, shapes began to emerge, creatures unlike anything they'd ever seen. They were hulking beasts with armored hides that shimmered like obsidian, their eyes glowing red like embers. Claws as long as daggers extended from their massive paws, and rows of jagged teeth glistened in the dim light. They moved with unnatural speed, circling the group like predators closing in on prey. "Form up!" Landon shouted, raising his weapon. His crew obeyed instantly, forming a tight defensive circle. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he aimed at the nearest beast, firing a burst of plasma bolts. The shots hit their mark, sending sparks flying off the creature's hide, but it didn't falter. Instead, it roared, lunging forward with terrifying ferocity. Chaos erupted. The beasts attacked relentlessly, forcing the humans to fight for their lives. Landon fired repeatedly, trying to find a weak spot, but the creature's armor absorbed nearly every shot. Beside him, Erin used her cybernetic implants to enhance her reflexes, dodging attacks with precision and striking back with electrified gauntlets. Sparks flew as metal met flesh, but even her blows barely slowed the monsters down. One of the beasts swiped at Landon, its claws grazing his shoulder and tearing through his uniform. Pain seared through him, but he gritted his teeth and kept fighting, refusing to fall back. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw another crew member go down, overwhelmed by two attackers. Rage surged within him, fueling his determination. "We can't keep this up," Erin yelled over the din of battle. "There's too many." Landon knew she was right. Their weapons weren't enough. Glancing around frantically, he spotted a cluster of sharp, jagged rocks jutting out of the ground nearby. "To the rocks!" he commanded, firing a few more shots to cover their retreat. The crew scrambled toward the makeshift barrier, using the terrain to shield themselves from the relentless assault. As they regrouped, Landon noticed something peculiar about the creatures. They seemed drawn to the light emitted by their weapons. The brighter the blasts, the more aggressively the beasts charged. An idea sparked in his mind. "Turn off your lights," he ordered. "Switch to stealth mode." Confusion rippled through the group, but they obeyed. Within moments, the battlefield plunged into relative darkness, save for the faint glow of the creatures' eyes. To their astonishment, the beasts hesitated, sniffing the air and growling uncertainly. Without the visual stimuli, they appeared disoriented. "Now!" Landon shouted, grabbing a flare from his belt. He ignited it and hurled it far into the distance. The flare exploded in a brilliant burst of white light, drawing the creatures' attention. En masse, they turned and charged toward the source, abandoning their pursuit of the humans. Breathing heavily, the crew watched in stunned silence as the beasts disappeared into the gloom. "That won't hold them forever," Landon warned, clutching his injured shoulder. "We need to move fast." Before they could act, a figure materialized out of the shadows. Nyxera stood there, her arms crossed, watching them with an unreadable expression. "Impressive," she admitted, her voice carrying a hint of approval. "Most would have perished by now." Landon straightened, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Is this some kind of game to you?" he demanded, his tone sharper than he intended. "Sending those things after us like we're nothing but prey?" Her gaze hardened, and for a moment, he thought she might strike him down where he stood. Instead, she stepped closer, her movements fluid and deliberate. "This is no game, human," she said coldly. "This is survival. If you cannot adapt, you do not deserve to live." Despite her harsh words, there was something in her eyes, a flicker of respect, perhaps even admiration. Landon met her stare unflinchingly, unwilling to back down. "Then stop testing us and start trusting us," he shot back. "We're not your enemies." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The tension between them crackled like electricity, palpable and raw. Then, unexpectedly, Nyxera smiled, a small, almost imperceptible curve of her lips. "Trust must be earned, Captain. And you still have much to prove." Before he could respond, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The rumbling grew louder, accompanied by a deafening roar that shook the very air. From the horizon, a new threat emerged, a colossal creature unlike anything they'd faced before. Towering over the landscape, it resembled a serpent made of molten rock, its body writhing with fiery tendrils that scorched the earth as it moved. Its single, massive eye burned with malevolent intelligence, locking onto the group with predatory focus. Nyxera's expression darkened. This was not part of the trial," she muttered, her voice tinged with alarm. She turned to Landon, her earlier hostility replaced by urgency. "You must flee. Now." But Landon didn't budge. He glanced at his crew, battered but still standing, then back at Nyxera. "No," he said firmly. "We don't run unless we're sure we can't fight." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You fool. That thing will annihilate you. And staying here arguing won't help either," he retorted, gripping his weapon tighter. "Tell me how to kill it." Nyxera hesitated, torn between exasperation and reluctant admiration. Finally she sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. Its core is vulnerable, she explained quickly, pointing to the glowing orb embedded in the creature's chest. But you'll need to get close. Very close. Got it, Landon said, already formulating a plan. Turning to Aaron, he issued rapid-fire instructions. Create a diversion. Draw its attention away from us. The rest of you, stay back and provide cover fire. Aaron nodded, her usual confidence returning. Understood. Just don't die, Captain. With that, she activated her cloaking device, disappearing into thin air. Moments later, explosions erupted near the creature's tail, drawing its enraged gaze. Taking advantage of the distraction, Landon sprinted toward the behemoth, weaving through the fiery tendrils that lashed out at him. Heat seared his skin, but he pressed on, focused solely on reaching the glowing core. Behind him, Nyxera watched in stunned silence, her emotions warring within her. These humans, reckless, determined, infuriatingly brave, were unlike any species she'd encountered before. Against all odds, they refused to give up. And Landon. There was something about him that unsettled her, something that made her question everything she thought she knew about outsiders. Just as Landon reached the creature's core, narrowly avoiding a swipe from its massive claw, Nyxera made her decision. Summoning a surge of energy, she unleashed a barrage of attacks, striking the creature's weaker points and creating openings for him. Together, they fought with a synchronicity that surprised even her. When the final blow landed, the creature let out a deafening shriek before collapsing into a heap of smoldering ash. Exhausted but triumphant, Landon turned to Nyxera, his chest heaving. "Guess we make a decent team," he said, a weary grin spreading across his face. She stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then softly she said, "Perhaps you do." As the dust settled and the crew regrouped, a strange camaraderie began to form between the humans and Nyxera. Despite her initial hostility, she had proven instrumental in their survival during the trial of shadows. Landon, still nursing his injuries, couldn't shake the feeling that they had crossed some invisible threshold, one that went beyond mere cooperation. There was a bond forming, fragile yet undeniable, forged in the crucible of shared danger. Back at the heart of Arinder, the towering crystal structure now pulsed steadily, responding to their presence. Nyxera approached it cautiously, her glowing pendant resonating with the same frequency. She placed a hand on its surface, closing her eyes as if communing with it. After a moment, she turned to face the group, her expression thoughtful. "The trial has ended," she announced, her voice quieter than usual. "You have proven yourselves capable of adapting, of working together even in the face of overwhelming odds. For that, I grant you temporary sanctuary here." A murmur of relief rippled through the crew, though Landon remained cautious. "Temporary?" he asked, arching an eyebrow. "What happens after that?" Her gaze lingered on him, unreadable. "That depends on you. Trust is not given lightly among my people. But perhaps further trials will reveal more." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled again, this time, not from an attack but from the arrival of several other figures. They emerged from the shadows, clad in armor similar to Nyxera's but adorned with additional markings that signified rank or status. Among them was an elder, his silver hair flowing like silk and his eyes radiating wisdom and power. He carried a staff topped with a gemstone that pulsed with the same energy as the heart of Arinder. "Nyxera," the elder said, his voice deep and resonant. "You bring outsiders to sacred ground. Explain yourself." She stepped forward, inclining her head respectfully. "Elder Kalon, these humans sought entry to our world. I subjected them to the trial of shadows, and they prevailed. Their actions warrant consideration." Kalon studied the group carefully, his piercing gaze lingering longest on Landon. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Very well. However, the council must decide their fate. Until then, they remain under your protection." Nyxera bowed slightly, acknowledging the directive. As the elder departed with his entourage, she turned back to the humans. "Come," she said simply. "There is much you need to understand about this place, and about yourselves." She led them deeper into the crystalline forest, where the air grew cooler and the light softer. Along the way, she explained fragments of her people's history, their connection to the heart of Arinder, their role as guardians of balance in the galaxy, and the ancient traditions that govern their society. Her tone softened as she spoke, revealing glimpses of vulnerability beneath her warrior facade. Landon listened intently, his mind racing with questions. One stood out above the rest. Why had she chosen to defend them? Was it duty, curiosity, or something else entirely? Their journey brought them to a secluded grove, where bioluminescent flowers bloomed in vibrant hues. Here, Nyxera finally stopped, turning to face them fully. "Rest here," she instructed. "Tomorrow, we begin anew." As the crew dispersed to tend to their wounds and recover, Landon lingered, watching her. Something about her posture suggested weariness, as if the weight of leadership pressed heavily on her shoulders. Hesitantly, he approached her. "You didn't have to help us back there," he said quietly. "Why did you?" Nyxera glanced at him, her glowing eyes searching his face. For a moment, she said nothing. Then softly she replied, "Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it." Her words lingered in the air, carrying a depth of meaning that struck him deeply. Before he could respond, she turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. Left alone in the tranquil grove, Landon couldn't shake the sense that their story was far from over, and that Nyxera's role in it was only beginning to unfold. The days that followed blurred into a kaleidoscope of discovery and tension. Under Nyxera's watchful eye, the humans were introduced to the intricacies of her world, learning customs and rituals that felt both alien and strangely familiar. They marveled at the crystalline spires that sang in harmonic tones when touched, and they learned to tread lightly among the glowing flora, which reacted to emotions as much as physical interaction. Each revelation deepened their appreciation for the delicate balance Nyxera's people maintained, but it also underscored the stakes of their presence there. Landon found himself increasingly drawn to Nyxera, not just because of her beauty or strength, but because of the complexity she revealed in fleeting moments. During one evening spent near the heart of Arinder, she confided in him about the burden of her title. "Guardian is not merely a role," she explained, her voice tinged with melancholy. "It is a sacrifice. My duty binds me to this land, to its needs above my own desires. Sometimes, I wonder if freedom exists for someone like me." Her honesty caught him off guard. "Freedom means different things to different people," he replied carefully. "Maybe it's not about escaping responsibility, but finding joy within it." She studied him for a long moment, her expression softening. "You speak as though you've experienced such burdens yourself." He nodded, thinking of the countless missions, the lives lost under his command, and the weight of leadership he carried daily. "I have. And I've learned that sometimes, the smallest connections make the biggest difference." Her lips curved into a faint smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps. But connections can also bring danger." Before he could press further, a commotion erupted nearby. A scout rushed into the clearing, his armor scorched and his breathing labored. "Intruders!" he gasped. "A fleet approaches, human ships." Panic rippled through the group. Landon's heart sank as he realized what this meant. Reinforcements had arrived, likely sent when the Eos failed to report back. While their intentions might have been noble, their arrival threatened to undo everything they'd worked toward. Nyxera's reaction was immediate and fierce. Her glowing eyes narrowed, and her hand instinctively went to the hilt of her weapon. "I warned you," she said sharply, her tone colder than he'd ever heard it. "Your kind cannot resist conquest." "It's not like that," Landon insisted, stepping forward. "They're looking for us. We didn't call them here." "Explain that to them," she shot back, gesturing toward the horizon where faint flashes of light signaled the approaching vessels. "Will they listen? Or will they see only what they want to take?" Her words stung, but he couldn't deny their truth. Humanity's history was riddled with examples of good intentions spiraling into disaster. Determination surged within him. "Then let me stop them," he said firmly. "Let me talk to them. If anyone can convince them to stand down, it's me." For a moment, Nyxera hesitated, her conflicting emotions playing across her face. Finally, she nodded curtly. "Go. But know this, If they threaten my people, I will destroy them. No exceptions. With that, she turned and strode away, her warriors following closely behind. Landon watched her go, his mind racing. He couldn't let this escalate, not after everything they'd achieved. Turning to Aaron, he gave quick instructions before heading toward the landing site, praying he could reach the incoming fleet in time. As he navigated the treacherous terrain, memories of Nixera's words haunted him. Connections brought danger, but they also brought hope. And right now, hope was all he had left. The journey to intercept the fleet felt like an eternity, each step heavy with the weight of responsibility. Landon's mind raced with possibilities. How could he convince his own kind to stand down without escalating tensions? Would they even listen to him after being out of contact for so long? The thought gnawed at him, but one thing kept him moving forward, the image of Nixera's glowing eyes, filled with both resolve and vulnerability. He couldn't let her down. Not now. When he finally reached the designated landing zone, the sight before him was daunting. 3 massive human vessels descended from the sky, their engines roaring like thunder as they kicked up clouds of dust. Troops poured out, armed to the teeth and scanning the area with clear intent. At their head stood Admiral Callan Voss, a grizzled veteran known for his unyielding pragmatism and zero tolerance for failure. "Captain Drake," Voss barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You've been missing for days. Do you have any idea how many resources we've expended looking for you?" Landon stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Admiral, I understand your concern, but this situation is far more delicate than it appears. Please, hear me out." Voss crossed his arms, his expression hardening. "Delicate? We detected hostile energy signatures and lost communication with your team. That doesn't scream diplomacy, it screams engagement." "It's not hostility," Landon countered urgently. "These people, these beings, are guardians of this world. They're not our enemies. They're protectors. If we push them, if we act recklessly, we risk destroying everything they've built, and everything we might gain by working together." The Admiral narrowed his eyes, clearly skeptical. "And what exactly do we stand to gain, Captain? Another skirmish over alien artifacts? Another failed alliance because they don't trust us?" "No," Landon said firmly. "We gain knowledge, trust, a chance to prove that humanity has changed, that we're capable of coexisting without conquest." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, almost imperceptibly, Voss's stance softened. "Prove it," he said simply. "Show me why I should believe you." Relief washed over Landon, though he knew the hardest part was still ahead. Leading the Admiral and a small contingent of soldiers back toward the heart of Arinder, he prepared himself for what would come next. Every step felt like walking a tightrope, balancing hope against fear. Nixera stood atop a crystalline ridge overlooking the approaching humans, her warriors arrayed behind her in silent readiness. Her heart pounded, not out of fear, but anticipation. She trusted Landon, perhaps more than she cared to admit, but trust was fragile. One wrong move, and everything could unravel. When the group emerged into view, she stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Voss halted mid-stride, his sharp gaze taking in the shimmering alien princess and the formidable force surrounding her. For a moment, no one spoke. Finally, Nixera broke the silence. "You bring warships to my world," she began, her melodic voice laced with steel. "Why should I spare you?" Voss straightened, meeting her stare head-on. "We came seeking answers. Our intentions were never hostile, but your actions gave us little choice but to prepare for conflict." Her eyes flashed dangerously. "My actions? You trespassed on sacred ground. You disturbed the balance of this realm. And now you accuse me of provocation." Before the exchange could escalate, Landon stepped between them, his voice firm but calm. "Enough. Both of you are here because you care about protecting what matters most. Let's focus on finding common ground instead of assigning blame." To everyone's surprise, Nixera lowered her weapon slightly, her expression softening ever so subtly. "Very well," she said, addressing Voss directly. "If your kind truly seeks understanding, then prove it. Leave your weapons behind and walk unarmed into my domain. Only then will I consider granting you audience." The request hung heavily in the air. Voss hesitated, glancing at his soldiers, who shifted uneasily. Finally, he nodded. "Agreed. But know this, if harm comes to my people, there will be consequences." With that uneasy truce established, the group proceeded cautiously toward the heart of Arinder. The atmosphere grew tense as they entered the crystalline forest, the bioluminescent trees casting ethereal light over the procession. Elder Kalon awaited them, his staff glowing faintly as he surveyed the newcomers. "This gathering is unprecedented," he said gravely. "Humans and Arendorians standing together, not as adversaries, but as equals. Such unity has not been seen in millennia." Landon seized the moment, stepping forward. "Elder Kalon, we humbly ask for the opportunity to forge a new path, to learn from your people and share our own knowledge in return. Together, we can create something extraordinary." Kalon studied him intently, then turned to Nyxera. "What say you, Guardian? Shall we extend this olive branch?" For a long moment, Nyxera said nothing. Her gaze swept over the assembled humans, lingering briefly on Landon. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Let it be so. But remember, trust must be earned. Any betrayal will not go unanswered." As the council convened to formalize the agreement, Landon found himself alone with Nyxera once more. The tension between them had shifted, replaced by something warmer and more profound. "You took a great risk today," she said softly, her glowing eyes reflecting the fading twilight. "Not just for your people, but for mine." He smiled faintly. Sometimes, risks are worth taking, especially when the reward is something this important. She tilted her head, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. "You continue to surprise me, human. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away. Without thinking, Landon reached out, gently brushing his fingers against hers. For a heartbeat, she stiffened, but then, to his astonishment, she didn't pull away. "Touch me once, and I won't spare you," she murmured, echoing her earlier warning. But this time, her tone carried a playful edge. "Though, perhaps you've already proven yourself worthy." A smile tugged at his lips. "Does that mean I get a second chance?" Her laughter rang out, musical and unrestrained. "Perhaps. But don't make me regret it." As the stars began to twinkle above the crystalline spires, a tentative harmony settled over the land. It wasn't perfect, and challenges undoubtedly lay ahead. But for the first time in centuries, two vastly different worlds had taken the first step toward understanding, and maybe even friendship. And somewhere beneath the glow of the heart of Arinder, a human captain and an alien warrior princess dared to dream of a future where differences weren't barriers, but bridges. Under the shimmering light of the heart of Arinder, humanity and Nyxera's people signed a historic pact, pledging mutual respect and cooperation. Landon stood beside Nyxera as witnesses to the momentous occasion, their earlier tension replaced by quiet understanding. "You've changed my perspective on humans," Nyxera admitted softly, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Perhaps there's hope for us yet. And you've reminded me that courage isn't just about fighting, it's about trust," Landon replied with a smile. As the ceremony concluded, Elder Kalon raised his staff, its gemstone pulsing brightly. "Let this mark the beginning of unity between our worlds." Cheers erupted from both sides, the once hostile factions now united in celebration. Nyxera turned to Landon, her expression softening further. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you didn't give up on us." "Never," he said firmly, earning a rare grin from her. Later, under the twin moons of Arinder, they walked together through the glowing forest. The air hummed with life, mirroring the newfound harmony between their peoples. "I suppose this means we're allies now," Nyxera teased, glancing at him sidelong. "Allies?" Landon chuckled. "I was hoping for something more like friends." Her laughter echoed melodically. "We'll see, human. Don't push your luck." But when she reached out to touch the pendant at her neck, a symbol of her duty, her hand brushed his briefly. This time, neither pulled away. From the shadows, Aaron watched with a knowing smile before turning back to the festivities. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, it felt possible. As dawn broke over the crystalline spires, Landon gazed at Nyxera, realizing she wasn't just an alien warrior princess anymore. She was hope incarnate, and maybe even something more. And so, beneath alien skies, two worlds began a shared journey toward peace, guided by trust, courage, and the promise of brighter tomorrows.